to them.
You gotta love how the Garradors don't even go for the other enemies. Even though these enemies are making noise, even though they're dropping down, even though their flails are making noises when they're shaking, all these other noises, and they're not even trying to go for them. Yeah, great fucking design, new Capcom. A development team that supposedly cares about very small details and supposedly cares about enemy types that can't differentiate between friend and foe, but they clearly can. They somehow can recognize my movement and my shots as being weird, yet not the other enemies, and that somehow makes sense. All for the sake of cheap shortcuts and difficulty design. All for the sake of very artificial designs that make no fucking sense. Yeah, great fucking gameplay design, new Capcom. What a fucking stupid fight. That's how much the flash grenades are forced upon you, or they just want you to use the rocket launcher against these enemies. So what if I did this no damage, no merchant, no new game plus items, no charms, no flash grenades? All I did was just break the game down to a rudimentary level. All I did was just run the gambit with poor designs like crazy. All I did was just get lucky that the enemies didn't fuck me over with their poor designs. You have the fucking axe guys throwing their stupid axes at you. The enemies, they're sprinting and they don't alert the Garrador for some reason. The Gyarados themselves have all sorts of bad hitboxes with phantom range, and they're also very omniscient, and their pathfinding doesn't make any fucking sense with the way they navigate the environment to get to you. They also struggle with killing basic enemies, apparently, because even though they have their massive claws, they have so much trouble instantly killing enemies, and all they're doing is just pushing enemies away. And while they're busy attacking enemies, they're also weirdly turning on these access points in order to turn around and continue their combo, and it just looks so fucking bad. You really realize you're playing a game, and you really realize just how much the Gyarados just aren't very helpful for the sequence at all. And they also have an absurd amount of life. I mean, you have to shoot the weak spots so many times, even with the shotgun. It's just not enough. And I don't even know how the grenade damage is calculated. Like, is it actually amplifying the damage done to the weak spot when the weak spot is exposed? It really doesn't feel like it. It just feels like this fight is just mindlessly designed with flash grenades in mind, where you have to have at least 6 flash grenades, and you have to continually stun the Gyarados and also damage their weak spot at the same time when it's exposed. And in the process, you're also stunning the other enemies. And by the way, they put way too many fucking enemies in this sequence. What's the justification for putting in this many enemies in what's supposed to be a stealth encounter? The Garradors don't even feel like the main threat. It's the fucking enemies that feel like the main threat. And all they're doing is walking around. They're not getting flinched whatsoever because of how much this game hides the flinch animations behind these gates that just involves shooting them during very specific animations, and they never seem to run at all, and the running animation is the only animation I can punish properly. But I say properly, I can only punish them during the running animation when they're in the neutral state of running. I have to wait for them to get out of their startup frames. And they also have an absurd amount of life too. The regular enemies can take 3 shotgun shells, it feels like. And that first woman you deal with in that hood, why does she have more life than the other enemies? And then you have like the other enemies that hide around the corners, and there's some weird programming with this entire fight right here where if you stand near very specific geometry, the enemies slow down or they stop moving entirely, and then randomly out of the blue they start to come after you. And this is such a big problem because when you're trying to get away from the Gyarados or you're trying to reposition yourself, there could be enemies standing around corners or standing in those hallways to the sides of the arena, all because of this weird AI bug with this section. And I just think it's a side effect of putting in 2 different enemy types in the same room. And it's almost like the enemies are just trying to walk towards you to not alert the Gyarados, but it doesn't even fucking matter. Every noise they make, every sound they make, every moment where their weapon makes contact with the environment or another enemy, it doesn't make noise. Yet your own actions make noise. So the tooltip for this fight that says that the Garradors aren't able to distinguish between friend and foe is a complete lie, because they clearly can, and they're just pretending to be otherwise, and it doesn't complement the whole idea of challenge. There's no fucking logic to it when a developer has to take these kind of cheap shortcuts to artificially inflate the difficulty to the point where it's not even a challenge, it's just a what the fuck am I doing kind of fight that just reeks of broken, poorly thought out designs that weren't properly QA tested. You have yourself a completely deluded development team. And going back to the previous tangents, did they only put in this many enemies because they couldn't think of a more creative way of introducing ammo that didn't involve enemies? How do you make this a sequence where the Garradors stand out? They don't stand out in any sort of way. You're spending more time dealing with the enemies. You're spending more time trying to use the Garradors' awkward pathfinding and awkward attacks and pivoting and pirouetting and all this other nonsense that just shows how much they're an AI system to your advantage in a semi-decent way to get rid of the enemies, and it's just so fucking awkward. It's so much of a fucking mess. It's just clear they want you to spam flash grenades or use the rocket launcher, and if they want you to do that, then they know this fight is utter garbage. The amount of forward knowledge required, the amount of times you have to run past enemies in situations that don't make any sense, even when the section designs don't complement this idea. And even when you're doing that, you still don't have enough ammo for later sequences because of the amount of back-to-back encounters that require an absurd amount of ammunition with very little breathing room in between those encounters so that you have the right amount of ammunition for later sequences. They didn't even give this any thought with the way they paced this game and with the way they paced all of the encounters in this game. The pacing on this game and the way they've laid out the enemy placements and the ammunition placements, it's a fucking mess. It just goes to show a lack of care and a lack of intelligence displayed by this development team that should be at the height of their intelligence. They've been around since 1996, and it just feels like they're back at square one. They're back at level 1 in their intelligence level. It feels like they're fucking amateurs. It feels like they're fucking aliens from a different reality. I mean, it's just so fucking brain dead. But brain dead, mind-numbing, repetitive, stupid, like insolent, incompetent. I just don't understand how they can be in this state. Even the words I've just listed aren't enough to describe where New Capcom is as a development team. They have taken on the role as being the worst development team in all of gaming history. So what if they make the frame rate good? So what if they made the graphics good? So what if they made the optimization good? What good is all that if the general gameplay is completely fucked from the beginning? This entire game was made incorrectly from the moment they birthed this idea of remaking Resident Evil 4. And I can't believe Shinji Mikami likes this game, but of course he's probably playing on casual difficulty or something. The original director of Resident Evil 4 likes this game. And if he's playing on casual, then fine. He's playing a false experience. If he promotes that rather than what the game actually is. I can't really say much about that, but ignoring that, just getting back to this encounter. This encounter is just the personification of what is wrong with this game and what is wrong with these idiotic developers. And they're receiving so much praise for the way this game is designed. It is insufferable that they are receiving praise for their shortcomings like this. That just goes to show how fucked the toxic fan base is mentally. And for them to say, oh, we designed this game for no merchant, yet it's going to lead to these kind of clunky, lengthy, tedious, stupid encounters like this that just showcase the poor designs greatly. They don't even understand their own game at this point. Just like a Resident Evil Village, they didn't understand their own designs if they're going to be glamorizing a stupid Knives Out challenge for Resident Evil Village or the 10,000 lei restriction for Resident Evil Village. For them to specify no merchant and then not specify difficulty. For them to specify handgun/knife only. Do you have any idea how awkward this fight is going to be? Doing handgun/knife only, and yet the developers believe their game is well designed for those restrictions? When a developer can't even comprehend their own designs correctly, you get end results like this with this stupid Garrador encounter. They're seriously the most dense and retarded development team I have ever seen. And there's going to be so much more of this content to cover when I get to the remaining parts of my walkthrough of Resident Evil 4 Remake, and I get to my review of this game, because like I said, this game needs a review. I need to do the review, not because I want to, but because I need to. Because this game is unlike any game I have ever played, with its shit quality. So far below the baseline level of shit, to the point of feeling like a pre-alpha. This game doesn't even feel like a fucking alpha, it feels like a pre-alpha game. That's how bad this entire fight is. That's how bad this entire game is. Fuck this development team. Fuck this game. That's the end of this.